Just some follow-up thoughts here. It's very likely that my dog would have died already if not for my, applying my intellect to figure out that it's likely a partial obstruction of the esophagus, and so I can get protein into his stomach by liquefying it to bypass the obstruction, because it's a partial obstruction, not a complete obstruction. He'd be dead already if it was a complete obstruction. So, in doing this, it reminds me of a recent Discord interaction I had in an Israeli server that I linked to from Reddit, right? r/Israel, which Reddit, of course, banned me after that for my hate speech. But the Jews, I'm beginning to think their hyper-liberalism explains their behavior. This like insane behavior that just makes them a bunch of assholes, right? So when I was in that server, I was showing how I was learning anatomy and was learning how to practice giving stitches. That way, if I need to, I can give stitches, like on a boat. And this Jew was like, "No, that's illegal. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to practice. You're not supposed to give stitches without medical certification." And I said, "Yeah, I get that and I agree, but, when we're out on a sailboat, 50, 100, or hundreds of miles away from land and emergency medical services, and someone's bleeding to death and you could save their life by closing the wound, you should close the wound. You shouldn't hesitate and say, oh, well, there's legal boundaries. No, you should break the law to save a life." And that's what I'm doing here. Because I'm not certified as a veterinarian, right? Technically, I'm probably violating some sort of law, but that I don't care. Not going to let my dog die just because people are shitty, if I can help it. And if I could save a dog's life, I could save a child's life. I could save people's lives. Why am I not certified as a nurse and working in a hospital? Is society that shitty and corrupt? Right? Like, this is a whole egotistical, egomaniacal thing that I had where, by leaving certain places, they suffer because of my absence, right? And this kind of verifies that. If humans weren't such rat piece of shit, junkies, etc., I could have been a doctor. But to stick to the topic of the Jews and their hyper-liberalism, sorry, it's Shabbat, them taking it easy. It feels nice to relax. I read an article on the Salvation Army where the Salvation Army was being, ruined by this Jewish woman from New York who was treating them like they were a business, even though they were a church, which makes them a nonprofit. And so she forced them to pay taxes, and she took legal action. Well, they run like a business, so they're like a business. And she just couldn't let the Salvation Army help the homeless. No, she had to be all Jewy about it, right? Like all liberal, whatever. This is why people hate Jews. Shit like this, right? Shit like they can't help it. And that, I think, is happening with this course, this Citizen Cafe course out of Tel Aviv that kicked me out, is their feminism and their Black Lives Matter and all the, LGBTQ, all the liberalism made it so that they hated me just for what they perceive me as, right? A male, a heteronormative masculine guy. How bigoted. His existence is inherently bigoted and racist and sexist and xenophobic and, all the isms. There's new isms now. I read them in this APA manual. Heterosexism. Genderism. Anyway. And so, yeah, I think that's at the heart of all this. They can't shut it off. They can't help being so hyper-liberal that they're just, like... And for me, that's funny when the Jew shows their fangs, because they always act like victims, right? Oh, the Holocaust, and oh, anti-Semitism, and then... But yeah, I gotta get back to studying.